Die Another Day represented a return to form for James Bond, since it had been 15 years since he'd received a new Aston Martin, arguably his trademark car. The last time he was given one was the V8 Vanquish featured in 1987's The Living Daylights. In Die Another Day he receives a V12 Vanquish, and unfortunately, one Vanquish associated with the movie met its tragic demise years later. Ask anyone what car 007 drives and most will answer the Aston Martin DB5. Debuting in Goldfinger, the DB5 appears in 8 out of the 25 films in the official franchise. However, Bond drives a variety of other Aston Martin vehicles throughout the series as well. The Aston Martin V12 Vanquish began life as the Project Vantage concept at the North American International Auto Show, before making its official public debut at the 2001 Geneva Motor Show. The period leading up to the Vanquish's debut was a dull time for cars in the Bond series. The franchise had signed a deal with BMW, leading Bond to first get a Z3, which we only get to see him drive down a dirt road, and later a Z8, which barely gets driven before being cut in half.
Q's not gonna like this.
In fact, his only car to see some action was a fairly mundane-looking 7 Series sedan. Die Another Day marked the beginning of a new product placement deal with Ford, and returned Bond to his trusty Aston. Then Bond actor Pierce Brosnan was taken to the Aston Martin factory to see the new Vanquish, and even given the opportunity to take it for a test drive. Needless to say, it was love at first sight, with the actor stating, "There was no car on the road like it." Pierce was understandably angry when Aston Martin reneged on a deal to provide him with his own Vanquish. So much so that he backed out of a scheduled photo shoot with the car until they agreed to fulfill their end of the bargain. Pierce was ultimately given a custom Vanquish featuring dorsal nameplates proclaiming that it was, quote, hand-built in England for Pierce Brosnan. In the Bond universe, the Vanquish featured more gadgets than ever before.
All the usual refinements, ejector seat, torpedoes, target-seeking shotguns.
Some fans felt that the invisibility was a step too far, especially in a movie that already featured space lasers, face swapping, Madonna, and not one, but 2 sequences in which Bond surfs giant 100-foot waves. The TV show Top Gear would later test a rudimentary version of the invisibility technology in one of their episodes, ultimately deciding that while the concept is slightly more plausible than expected, it still isn't anywhere near the capabilities shown in the movie. Reports indicate that 7 Vanquishes were used in the making of the film. This included 4 special effects cars for exterior shooting and 3 hero cars for interior shooting. The special effects cars were modified to be 4-wheel drive in order to complete the film's complex chase sequence across a frozen lake in Iceland. The automatic gearbox in them was capable of making the car go 120 miles per hour in both forward and reverse. Other modifications included roll cages, flotation devices in the event that any of the cars sunk through the warming lake's surface, and the placement of the engine near the rear of the chassis to accommodate the hood-mounted shotguns and missiles behind the grille. Unfortunately, not all of the Aston Martins survived production. One of the special effects cars reportedly missed its mark, leading to a high-speed collision with an iceberg. The Ford deal meant that the majority of the cars shown in the movie were made by Ford or companies it owned at the time. The film includes some classics like a Ford Fairlane that Bond gets to drive and a Mercury Custom taxi. In addition to some newer models, like the Ford Thunderbird driven by Halle Berry's Bond girl Jinx, and a heavily modified Jaguar XKR that villain Zhao uses to face off against Bond's Aston. The Vanquish, Thunderbird, and XKR all appeared together at the 2002 British Motor Show in Birmingham as a promotion for the film's release. The Vanquish further cemented its status in the Bond empire by appearing as a playable vehicle in the video games Nightfire and Everything or Nothing. As the franchise moved into the Daniel Craig era, Bond sticks with Aston Martin as his preferred car maker, with him getting behind the wheel of a DBS V12 in Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, a DB10 in Spectre, and a DBS Superleggera in No Time to Die. 2 of the Vanquishes used in the movie have since been sold at auction. one for 144,500 pounds and another for a whopping 190,000 pounds. And with only 2,589 units ever produced, even civilian Vanquishes are a rarity. But there's a tragic story behind the fate of Pierce Brosnan's Vanquish. For years following the film's release, Pierce could be seen driving the car around the Los Angeles area. However, he disclosed in recent years that the car sadly perished in a house fire. An Instagram post by the actor reveals that the aforementioned dorsal nameplates are the only surviving part of the car. But don't worry, Pierce, James Bond has an issue with keeping his cars in pristine condition as well.